Hey everyone, welcome to the show. You know that moment when the sort of carefree days in childhood start to blur at the edges, and this new, more complicated world begins to come into focus? It's a real tightrope walk, isn't it? Exhilarating freedom, but also, well, unexpected vulnerability.
Mm.
You sent us Lee Sanders' Under the Light of Fireflies, and yeah, we dove deep into this coming-of-age novel to unpack just what makes that transition feel so poignant.
That's right. You flagged this one for us. It's a story centered on a young boy, Noah, during a summer that really marks a shift in his understanding of things. We see him navigating those intense bonds of childhood friendships, the subtle shifts within his family, and also the quiet undercurrent of grief following a personal loss. What's fascinating, I think, is how Sanders illuminates those seemingly small everyday moments, the ones that collectively shape a young person's perspective.
Absolutely. And there were aspects of Sanders' storytelling that really, really resonated with me. For one, the portrayal of those childhood friendships felt so authentic, that fierce loyalty kids have,
Hmm.
but also the little dramas that can feel, well, earth-shattering at that age. Sanders captured that perfectly, I thought.
Yeah, totally.
Whether it was their, grand plans for building that treehouse, which, let's be honest, probably wasn't up to code,
Unlikely.
or even the tensions that flared up during that infamous sleepover raid, it all felt so genuinely youthful. What stood out to you about those early relationships?
Well, what's interesting there is the way Sanders also subtly shows how those friendships are evolving. It's not just about unwavering loyalty, right? You see them testing boundaries, the emergence of little social hierarchies, and those first hints of how complex relationships can become, even for kids. Take, for instance, the dynamic between Noah, Dusty, and Sam. You see their individual personalities and how they navigate group decisions, even minor conflicts. That's such a key part of social development then.
Exactly. And moving beyond the friendships, the way the book handled grief was particularly well done. It wasn't melodramatic, but you could feel the absence of Noah's father just sort of hanging in the air.
Right.
It was in Noah's memories, the little things he recalled. And in the unspoken ways, the family seemed to just navigate their days. That moment when Noah overhears his little sister singing that simple nursery rhyme, Daddy Finger, and the wave of emotion that just washes over him.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a powerful example of how grief can linger in unexpected ways, especially for children. What did you make of Sanders' approach to this sensitive topic?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of, coming of age narratives, the subtle portrayal of grief here is quite effective. Often young protagonists are grappling with these internal struggles that they just lack the maturity or maybe the language to fully express. Sanders shows us this internalization of grief in Noah, how it influences his actions and perceptions without being, explicitly stated all the time. It speaks to the resilience young people develop when facing loss, but also their vulnerability.
And despite the underlying emotional weight of the story, Sanders also weaves in a wonderful sense of humor.
Oh, definitely needed that.
Yeah. Those slightly chaotic, often ill-conceived adventures that Noah and his friends embarked on provided such a great balance. Their attempts to sneak into that R-rated movie was at high risk? I think so.
Sounds about right for that age.
And their encounters with some of the quirky local figures like Mr. Wooderson with his unique perspectives on life.
Ah, yes.
Remember their elaborate plan involving the Nelsons' mailbox? Pure teenage ingenuity, right? Even if it was maybe a bit misguided. What did you find particularly funny?
Those later moments are just essential, aren't they, for capturing the true spirit of adolescence. It's a time of such earnestness, but also like immense impulsivity, which inevitably leads to these humorous situations.
Yeah.
Their attempt to infiltrate Sandra Prince's sleepover, and Sam's palpable anxiety about, the potential consequences, that perfectly encapsulates that blend of daring and apprehension that defines those years. It stops the narrative from getting too heavy, lets you connect with their youthful energy.
Now, as with any book, there were a couple of elements that, well, not major drawbacks that gave me pause. There were instances where it felt like simple miscommunication, or maybe just a reluctance to express feelings, led to conflicts between characters that felt almost avoidable.
Interesting point.
I'm thinking particularly about some of Noah's internal struggles and perhaps his interactions with Jill. It just made me wonder if things could have played out differently if there had been more open dialogue.
That raises an important question, doesn't it, about the narrative's intention. Is this a reflection of the characters' immaturity and their inability to communicate effectively, which is, well, a hallmark of adolescence?
Yeah, maybe.
Or did it feel more like, I don't know, a plot device just to create some artificial conflict? In either case, it does highlight a common theme in these kinds of stories. The awkwardness and difficulty young people often face in articulating emotions and navigating relationships. Noah's hesitancy with Jill, for example, feels very true to that experience.
That's fair. And the other thing I noticed was a sense of a few loose ends, some unresolved threads that, in a way, kind of mirrored the uncertainty of adolescence itself.
Ah,
Without giving away any spoilers, obviously there were a couple of character arcs or plot points that felt like they could have been explored a bit further, or maybe offered a little more resolution. But then again, maybe that open-endedness is intentional, reflecting the ongoing journey of growing up where not everything gets neatly tied up. What's your take on that feeling of lingering questions?
that sense of unresolved threads can certainly be a deliberate narrative choice. I mean, adolescence is a period of transition and discovery, right?
That's real.
And life at that stage rarely provides all the answers. So, by leaving some questions open, Sanders might be aiming to reflect that ongoing process of growth and self-discovery. It allows the reader to keep pondering the characters' futures beyond the story itself, which can be quite powerful, even if it leaves a slight feeling of incompletion.
Yeah, I can see that. Overall, though, Under the Light of Fireflies was a really evocative and engaging read. It definitely transported me back, to those intense formative summers. So after our deep dive into its pages, I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars.
Oh, okay.
It just beautifully captures the messy, funny, and ultimately significant journey of growing up.
I'd concur with that rating. Yeah, 4 feels right. Sanders has crafted a really relatable and poignant story. The characters are well drawn, strong sense of nostalgia, and the exploration of those key themes, friendship, grief, and that often awkward navigation of adolescence, it's handled with both sensitivity and, like you said, a touch of humor.
Well, if this deep dive into Under the Light of Fireflies has sparked your curiosity, be sure to like and subscribe.
And you can find a link to purchase the book on Amazon. It's right there in the description below if you'd like to experience Noah's summer for yourself.
Thanks so much for joining us for this exploration today. We'd love to hear from you. What was your favorite moment or maybe an insight from our discussion?
Yeah, share your thoughts in the comments below. And feel free to share this deep dive with anyone who enjoys a nostalgic look at growing up, or just the power of those, fleeting childhood experiences.
And as you go about your day, maybe take a moment to think back to your own Firefly summers.
Mm-hmm.
What seemingly small moments from your youth still kind of flicker in your memory? The ones that shaped who you are today?
Mm-hmm. It's often the quiet, unassuming moments that leave the most lasting glow.